Good evening, Canby. Going to open the work session for May 19th, 2021. And I will turn it over to Scott to talk to us about the swim center.
City is muted. I appreciate your work, Melissa. I know crawling around on your knees was not in your job description to get audio started. I appreciate your work trying to sort through this.
Well, we will pause for a moment while we wait for audio to get reconnected. Apparently they had a speaker mic go down, so they're working on it.
Can you hear us?
Ah, we hear you now.
Okay. We had to restart our audio system. Apologies.
No problem. This is the technology world we're living in right now.
Yeah.
So I've opened the meeting and I'm turning it over to you, Scott, to talk about the swim center levy.
Great. Thank you, Council President Hensley and city councilors. So this is the all swim center work session. We actually have two items, both related to the swim center. The first is regarding the renewal of the levy that we'd like to talk to you about. And the second is regarding some proposed renovations at the swim center facility. So we'll start with the levy. I also want to acknowledge that Eric Leighton is here. Eric is our swim center manager, longtime swim center manager, and will be helping with this information. And when we get to the renovation portion of this discussion, we will have a guest architectural consultant that we'll introduce at that time. So first we want to talk about the proposed swim center levy renewal. As I think you all know, we have the swim center has been operating on a 5-year local option levy at a rate of 49 cents per thousand assessed value for, I think, about 20 years. So it's been renewed multiple times. The renewal for that, if we want to stay on target, would need to happen on this November's general election. So we're working back from that timeline and presenting this to you. And what we're asking for is direction from you as to whether to bring this forward to you in a formal council meeting for action. So again, what we're asking for, what we're talking about here is a renewal of the same rate. We're not changing the rate, so there would be no difference in the tax rate for our taxpayers in the city. And what I'd like to do is turn it over to Eric for a few minutes and let him explain what this provides and what this the value of this is to the swim centers.
Yes, so the levy provides about 75% of our support for the pool to run the facility. The facility is 51 years old, and obviously on a normal year we provide a lot of different things such as lap swims, water exercise, recreation swims, second grade lessons, public lessons, junior swim team, Gator swim team, and then high school swim team. So we're providing some things for the community, some things for the schools, and we usually operate at 90 plus hours a week. This year we're at about 72. When we're open, we've been at about 72 hours a week. Obviously, we've had to limit what we're doing, but we're still providing service to it. And hopefully soon we can get back to some of the other activities. The reason why the swim center was started, community group put together a fund and built the pool and then tried to run it for a couple of years and then donated it to the city. So the city's been in control of the pool for most of the 51 years. And we've had to do one renovation 30 years ago, but other than that, it's basically as it started. And we just, you know, in order to continue providing the services, we would need the local levy.
So, Council, what we were hoping for from you was some perhaps conversation and answering any questions you may have about this. But again, the direction would be if we were to proceed with this in the near future, we would need to bring back to you a formal resolution to begin the process of moving this forward to the ballot for the question for a vote. So really what I'd like to do is just kind of pause here and see if you have any questions or feedback.
Right, we would need a resolution, as you know. We've done this many times already. I think this will probably be the third time that I've been on the council, maybe the fourth, that we've gone for renewal. Does anybody have a question for staff? It looks like Councilor Parker, you have your hand up.
Not a question, but a statement underscoring what you said, Tracy, that we have routinely put this on the ballot for the citizens to decide. And it's always passed handily. It is one of the more popular things that a city does. So I see no reason why staff should not proceed to bring us a resolution.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Parker. Councilor Spoon.
Thank you, Council President Hensley. A couple of things. I know, Scott, this is your first time working with our pool, and our adult center is in the same situation, but I would love to see a resolution. I'm happy to talk about it with a resolution. I would encourage you to continue to work towards a permanent solution for the land issue, because as we continue to do these levies, I think it's a concern for taxpayers that there's not really a permanent solution for the issue at hand, which is that we don't own the land that the pool's on, right? So we also need to, in conjunction, work towards that. I think it's a dual effort. My other question would be, is it possible instead of calling it a family changing room, that it could be a gender neutral changing room that would also encompass families?
It doesn't matter what, we can call it whatever you want. It doesn't matter. It's just an alternative changing room to the two.
That's perfect.
That's some multi-purpose use that we don't have now.
Okay. Yeah. I was just curious because
that's
the language was in here as a family one, but yeah.
And I actually,
Not actually levy though.
sorry, Councilor Spoon, on that, I think that really ties into our next conversation as well. So we can kind of circle back to that a little bit too. We'll have our architect to help kind of walk through part of that process.
Yeah, that's perfect. It was just a question because it was in the staff report. It was already labeled in the staff report. So, all right, thank you.
Councilor Banks.
Thank you. I had just one question. I remember going to the pool when I was 6 in 1974. At some point, do we build a new pool? Do we? Is there like a longevity on public pools? I'm just curious if we have a long-term plan. Is our pool? It's old. Is we content with the pool? Are we going to need a new pool at some point down the road?
Of course, we will sometime down the road. It depends on when the community is ready to support a new pool. Obviously, if we had a new pool, we could do a lot more with it. We could, have lots of different activities going on at the same time with a bigger facility. But that hasn't been something that the community has. During our Park and Rec master plan, it's brought up quite a bit, but it's not something that the community has put forward yet.
I would also add to that, Counselor, that again, as I just mentioned a moment ago, I think that ties into the second half of our work session as well, and we'll get into some of what the proposed renovations are, and that will actually help to modernize our facility. It's not a fix-all, but it would certainly doing these renovations that we're going to be talking about will modernize that, provide some amenities that we don't currently have, and will certainly give us, I think, an extension of the usability and the life of the pool. But yeah, I concur with what Eric said, that I think at some point there would be probably a need to look at replacement or enhancement of the existing facility. Also, just quickly, while I've got the microphone, if you will, I wanted to also address Councilor Spoon's comment about the arrangement with the land and the long-term issue there, and that point was well taken. And I just wanted to let you all know that's certainly something that is front of mind for me. And I had begun to engage with our current school district superintendent, but of course, as I think everybody knows, he is going to be leaving the district soon, and there'll be a new superintendent. And so my hope is that I'll be re-engaging with that new superintendent early and hopefully often, and we'll have these types of conversations. But yes, I think that's an excellent point, and it's something that we need to address and try to see if there's a long-term solution there.
Okay. Councilor Farwig, is your question regarding the levy?
Yes. Two questions, one regarding the levy and one in relation to the ground lease. Do we know how many years we have left on the ground lease on that? I'm sure we know.
Right now.
I'm sorry, say that again?
It's year to year right now.
Okay, so we don't have a long-term lease on that.
Correct.
Okay. I'd really love to have a long-term lease before doing another 5-year levy. Or, you know, I want that to be kind of on the top of the priority list, because I don't know that I want a 5-year levy. If we have a 5-year levy and they come back and say, we're not going to lease you the ground, what are the ramifications there? And then second was with and Scott, this is probably a question for you, with the Capard kind of gaining some steam, it looks like on this ballot, does the pool eventually become part of Capard if that goes through, and how does that affect a levy if we do a levy, if as part of recreation, Canby Area Parks and Recreation, if that moves forward, what do we do there?
Yeah, that's really an excellent point. The real answer is right now I'm not sure. I would still suggest that we continue to proceed with this particular levy. There are some conversations happening, and we'll be bringing those forward to the council when they get a little bit more formed, probably in the somewhat near future, about Capard and some efforts to look at maybe redoing their boundaries and what that relationship would look like with the city. Those are some details that we still need to spell out, and if that were to move forward. But I think that's going to be a multi-step, kind of a phased process with redoing the district boundary, and then perhaps putting a money measure forward for some kind of permanent rate that would, I think, as I understand it from my conversations with Capard, is that would be money that would essentially be directed to the city for city park and rec purposes. So, perhaps it could help support some of the swim center operations, but I think as of now, I can't make any assumptions. So, I think we're still going to recommend going forward here until we have more certainty. Perhaps by the time, if we were to go forward and if this levy were to pass, I would say at the end of that 5 years, we'd have much more clarity on that question, and things might get to that point over the course of the next few years. I hope that gives you an answer. I know that's not a perfect answer, but there's just a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah, there is uncertainty, and I don't think there is a perfect answer. So I do appreciate that. I just had some questions regarding that. I'm a huge supporter of the pool. As Eric knows, my daughter's on the Canby Gator swim team. It's been a huge part of her therapy for the last couple of years after her accident. And so that's been so I'm a huge supporter of it. And so I'm cool with moving forward.
Okay, well, we don't actually take a vote in a work session, so it sounds like, Scott, we pretty much have consensus for you to bring us a resolution at a future meeting.
Very good.
So are we ready for the next item?
Great. Thank you again, Council President Hensley. As mentioned, this next item is related to proposed remodel options at our current facility. We're going to bring in a guest for logging her in right now. There we go. So also joining us for this part of the discussion is Jennifer Marsacek. I hope I'm saying your name correctly, Jennifer. Jennifer is with Scott Edwards Architects, and we enlisted Scott Edwards Architects to help us do some schematics and proposed ideas to do some retrofitting at the swim center. So the quick background, and then actually I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer to walk you through the options and actually pull some renderings up on the screen, hopefully, if our screen sharing works. As Eric mentioned a little bit ago in our part of our other discussion, the pool is over 50 years old. I understand that there's been essentially one renovation in that entire time, and I think that was something like 30 or 31 years ago. So we've really not done a lot of updating and retrofitting, which in some regards is a testament to the good work of the staff to keep the pool functioning. But as we've been discussing, I think we can do some work there that brings it up to at least a better standard than we have right now, provides better service to our community and to our users of the facility. And we do have money that we've been, speaking of our swim levy, we've been putting money aside from our pool funds for the last several years, for a number of years actually, and have, I believe we've got $650,000 in a reserve fund to do some improvements. And what we're talking about here is under that number. So we engaged Scott Edwards Architects last fall, I think. Is that correct, Eric? And they've been working with staff on just kind of some different options, and we've basically whittled it down to a short list of options. And we do have a recommendation on one of the options, but we want to present those to you and let you ask any questions that you may have. So Jennifer, if you're ready to show those options and walk through that, and Eric can also help fill in some information as we do that.
Sounds good. So Eric, I'm going to share what I think everything that you showed the council, so there shouldn't be anything. Oh, it does say I'm disabled for screen sharing, so I don't know if someone can click me to allow that, and then I can share.
Okay, you should be able to now, Jennifer.
Okay, let's try. There it goes. Okay, does everyone see that screen then? Yeah. Okay, well, thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks for letting us work on your swim center. So yeah, we did start with Eric and Nathan last summer, and we enlisted some consultants on our side as well. So we had a structural engineer and mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers also look at your existing facility. So what I'm showing here is that front portion of the building. So your existing floor plan layout with the lobby, men's and women's restrooms on either side, office area, small counter check-in, mechanical space, break room space, electrical, and then the kind of funky way to get to the shower or the pool deck through the locker rooms, which is through the showers. And then your pool is back here. So Eric and Nathan really, brought several concerns to us. One, just accessibility of the restrooms, number of restrooms, age of the fixtures. The way both of those are situated is not ideal. The women, of course, have this funky situation where there's two restrooms in one stall.
Oh, the men that too.
Yeah. And then also, not really a good public access to the pool from the lobby. You really have to go through the locker room and then through the showers to get into the pool deck, unless you walk around the side, which I think is what happens for bigger events. You go around the side. So, improving that circulation, improving the office space, getting some separation of space for lifeguards and staff. So that means a separate restroom for them. And then, as we talked about, getting some family or gender neutral changing rooms or unisex restrooms to serve the community were some of the goals. So I looked at several options. The first one, they each kind of escalate, I guess, in scale and cost. And if you looked at the cost estimates that go along with that, you can see that in the numbers. So this one was sort of the minimal one where we just tried to renovate the restrooms almost in place and gain fixtures and gain actual accessible stalls, because you didn't really have that before. So you'll see that kind of funky scenario on the men's side, 2 urinals, 2 toilets and sinks. And the women's side have 4 toilets and 2 sinks. And most of these options to leave the locker room space in general the way it is, general size and number of lockers. And then this one starts to create that circulation spine through the center, group the 2 offices on the side, and still have this public counter. It's still sort of more an office space, so it's not a true public area, but you do have the access to the pool deck without having to go through the locker rooms. And then we converted that break room to a changing room, and that you'll see in all of the options. And then what we tried to do to get a little better circulation through the showers is remove the one wall that was for privacy. And so you can actually have a straight shot of circulation. And then we're going to add a privacy wall on the pool deck. And then each option, we'd like to add some deck showers as well for teams that just want to rinse off. Also a good idea just for people rinsing off before they get into the pool. And then the second option, little more extensive remodel to the restroom area. And mainly where that occurs is this front office public zone. So you have a much clearer circulation now right through from the lobby to the pool deck. That also includes a new restroom, another staff area, 2 staff offices, and then a work counter and check-in zone. But now you really have a clear public entry into the pool deck. And then actually locker room renovation is very similar to the last option. So the same number of fixtures each side, same shower situation, same additional family changing room. And also in each of the options, you'll see we looked at trying to enclose the little overhang porch. So you actually have a vestibule to keep some of that cold air out in the winter. And then the third option, the more intensive option and it's intensive in that we've really moved the restrooms over to a new location. So that would be completely kind of renovating the whole entire space. We've also moved the showers. So you now can circulate off of the pool deck without walking through anyone's shower, and could walk directly into the changing room without doing that. And then you'll have a separate area for showers and then the restrooms. And so that happens on both sides. And then that also really isolates your locker and changing space. Circulation from the lobby into the locker rooms is also changed because you got a little bit bigger office area with still 2 offices, work zone, kind of the staff area, break room area gets incorporated in this option. You also have an additional restroom or changing room that's bigger than the previous option that staff or guards or even the public could use, in addition to the previous versions that had the additional changing room. So those are the three options. Each of these also have associated mechanical, electrical, and plumbing upgrades if you took a look at the memos, but there's some recommendations for some new heating and cooling units, new water lines, repair of existing sanitary lines. There's definitely some electrical panels that haven't been touched in a long time, so they're recommending replacing those. There would be new lighting, new finishes. And then structurally, it's really just accommodating anything new that we add. So we're not looking to do a full structural upgrade of this building, but work with what you have and then improve where needed. And then I'll leave it on 2B because I think that is the preferred option. And I don't know if Eric wants to talk about that at all, or if there's any questions or anything I should touch on further.
The reason why we were leaning towards 2B is because it's a combination of making the changes that we really feel we must make and trying to keep the costs down. So the things that we feel like we must make is adding the additional changing room that we can use for any sex or special needs or family changing room. The need for a staff restroom that's not in the public area, and improving the access to the pool that's not going through the showers. So those are like the three main things it needs to do, but also upgrade what we have so it looks nicer and it's more up to date to modern standards.
Eric, again, what is the cost estimate on this?
So this one is, do you have the cost estimate right there? It's 500 and.
I think this is the 518,000 one, right?
Right.
So, Council, I just wanted to mention.
Yeah.
Is that 518?
518.
Yeah. So, Council, I just want to mention here, before you move into your questions and discussion, this option at an estimated cost of 518,000. I said something earlier. I want to clarify. I said we had 650,000 in reserves. That's not the total reserves at the pool. That's the amount we have put away in reserves for this project. So we've got way above our estimated cost set aside for this project. We actually have in our reserves at the pool a little over $1.1 million. So even at the full 650 for the renovation, we'd still have about $500,000 in reserves at the pool for rainy day or emergency issues. Just to clarify what I said earlier.
And the third option was in the 800,000 range, but we didn't feel comfortable with pulling our reserves down that much. So that way, if there was something that happened, we'd be able to deal with it. Some catastrophic thing, and I don't want to mention what a catastrophic thing might be because it seems like this is the year for that to happen. So we'll just leave that alone.
So we'll just pause and be happy to answer any questions or address your comments.
Does anybody have any questions for staff or for Jennifer? And I don't see anybody because people got the screen shared, so I need to see people.
Hands up, Tracy.
Oh, there you are.
It's hard to tell in this format. So I think you answered one of my questions, which was an option 2B, that restroom near the office would intended to be for staff only. It would not be open to the public.
Not on a regular basis.
Okay. If there were a large event or something, is that?
That's correct. For like swim meets, it is actually not legal for the meet officials to use the same restroom as the swimmers. And so right now we have to bring in porta potties for the officials to use so that the swimmers can have the restrooms. And we don't have any additional restrooms, so we can't use it. I mean, we just have to go outside.
No, that's really helpful. That's great. My other question is in the current design, where the kind of gender inclusive family restroom would be is a break room. What's the plan to give? Where would staff then spend their time when they aren't working? Are we still accommodating? Does 2B accommodate giving them a space to go when they're not working where they aren't expected to work?
It's only sort of a break room. It's more like a kitchen area, so that people can keep their food in there and then get their lunch, their snacks during the day. People don't hang out in that room.
So in 2B, that ends up being the staff area, kind of, I guess, south of the restroom. The staff restroom, is that kind of taking up that? Okay.
Which makes it closer to the work area, which would be much better.
Okay. No, that makes sense to me. That answers my questions. My concern is kind of along where Councilor Banks was headed, which is I have no problem upgrading the pool. I went to school a while ago, more than 20 years ago. I was in high school, and the pool has not changed much since then. I definitely see the value and support making upgrades to the pool. That's not my concern. My concern is more investing this amount of money when we don't have a long-term lease agreement, especially with a new incoming superintendent and a change up of the board that we aren't sure yet. I mean, the vote count's not really fully in, but I guess there is a little bit of hesitation on my part for a $500,000 improvement if we don't really have a lease agreement. And so what does that look like in terms of, and I guess in addition to that, is at what point are the improvements to the pool a diminishing return where what we actually need is a new pool building, right? And I always err on the side of trusting staff, but I just want to get a handle on that because I think there will be community questions about it. Is if all we can ever seem to negotiate with the school district is a year-to-year lease, does it make sense to put $500,000 into a building? And then in addition to that is at what point do we need to talk about building a new building and not putting $500,000 into our existing building? What does that look like in terms of your expert opinion on pools and design?
Let me start, and then so I'll address part of that, and then let Eric and possibly Jennifer, if you have any comments as well, jump in here. Again, Councilor Spoon, I think you're restating a really good point. It's something that, again, I became quickly aware of as I came into the city in this position, and something that I've had on my mind. I maybe Eric, because of his lengthy history with the pool, can speak to this a bit. But let me first of all say, one of your options certainly is to give us the direction that you don't want to do this until such time that we have a longer agreement. The risk to that is that the pool continues to be at its current level of functionality, and we do have the money to do this. So that's kind of a little bit of a give and take, but that certainly is an option if that's what the council's choice would be. I guess maybe Eric could shed a little bit more light on this issue, but I guess the city has at least a certain level of comfort with the current arrangement, even though I would completely agree it's not ideal, and I would prefer to have a long-term arrangement in place as well, and I will seek that. However, because the school and the school district actually benefits quite a bit from this facility, it's kind of like they have a very vested interest in the pool continuing to exist because of the school uses, as well as I think not getting in the way of any improvements, because that only improves the facility that they access. So when I say school uses, I'm referring to the school lessons program and the swim team related uses. That I don't know, Eric, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I agree that sometimes it might be used as a leveraging point or something, but the school district, we usually teach 5,000 lessons to the school district each year. And even in last year, we were able to teach 1,700 lessons before the pool was closed in March. So we teach usually January through June for the schools, for all the second graders in the schools. And then also the high school swim team practices there during the winter usually. And I don't see that they would want to give up those programs, especially when that was the initial reason for having the swimming pool, was to build it so that they could do swimming lessons. That was the first and most important thing on the list when they built this facility.
And then I know there was another portion to your question, Councilor Spoon, which is more related to should we investigate a whole new facility and not invest any money into our current. And I think that is a kind of a bigger question that we could answer in a couple of different ways. One is we could try to make that a focal point of our Parks and Rec master plan process that we're about to engage in, to at least kind of get a sense of that. Or we could specifically do a study with the help of perhaps a consulting firm that does aquatic studies. I've worked with these types of firms, and they essentially investigate the sort of the life expectancy of your existing pool with the return on what you might want to put in that given, and then with the understanding that looking at a new facility and what that might be. I know with the way that systems work in pools, there is a kind of a life expectancy, but we can continue to, I think, replace those things for at least a good number of years ahead until such time that we build a new facility. So I think it's doable in its current state with some renovations. But yes, at some point it does become that question of, do we keep investing here or should we just wait until we build a new facility?
No, I appreciate that. And, we are lucky to have a city administrator that's an expert in park systems and has probably been through a similar process like this before. So I appreciate your feedback there. I think I'm not sure what the answer is, but I think we're going to come to a point where we need to explore the life expectancy of the building we have. And I'm not against moving forward with something like this. I could certainly come to consensus on moving forward on 2B. But I am concerned about the point where we hit diminishing return on the longevity of the building and the facility in total. And I want to make sure we're balancing that. So I don't know how we do that moving forward. I'll leave that to staff. But yeah, it's on my mind for sure. So thank you for the feedback.
And then just real quick on that topic, and Jennifer, did you have anything to add from your perspective to that conversation?
Yeah, I mean, I think those are really good points, and those are exactly the questions you should be asking because you are hitting that 50-year. Well, you have hit that 50-year line, and we have renovated. Well, the pool in Newburgh, if anyone's familiar with it, that was a 50-year pool as well, and we ended up keeping that building, but we converted it to a gym and we built the aquatic section new. So that's what happened with that building. I've also been involved in a master plan project for the city of Forest Grove, and they have a very similar 50-year pool. They have maintained it very well, and I will say that you have maintained your pool very well. So there is that. We completed a master plan project with them with a firm called Councilman Hunsiger, who is a specialist in aquatics, and they did that kind of evaluation that you just mentioned. And we looked at options for them, including, but you know what? I think we didn't even get up to full replacement of the pool. We looked at replacing sections in a progression and adding to it with a longer term goal that they would keep using this facility, but just renovating as they go and replacing as they go. So that's definitely an option. It's not the cheapest option. If you're looking at a new pool, it's definitely building it new and instead of piecemeal renovating over many years. But they have also maintained a really nice facility and they want to keep it going in its spot. So there's definitely options and definitely people out there that can help solve that. But I think master planning and looking ahead is a really smart move.
No, I guess then knowing all that, my feedback would be, my preference, I guess, at this point would be to renovate only because we don't own the land and we don't have a long-term lease. And I would definitely hesitate to put millions of dollars into a new building without a long-term land solution. So maybe my feedback would be the answer is let's make ownership of the land part of the parks master plan and figuring out that long-term solution there, and then making a determination in 5 to 10 years about how we handle the pool moving forward. But this is great. I appreciate your work, Jennifer. And I appreciate staff's work on this. This is, really helpful.
Councilor Parker.
Hi there. Well, first of all, let's address the year-to-year school thing. If in fact the school district were to say, we're not going to renew it, they're stuck with the pool. They're going to have to staff it and they're going to have to run it. I don't see them doing that. So while it's not optimal that we don't own the land, I don't see them taking it back. Secondly, it's funny, years ago, when Jeff Rose was the superintendent, there was actually some momentum to have the school district give us access to some additional land there, because Jeff was tired of doing his laps in the morning in hot water. And maybe Eric can help me with this, but I think the way it works is for athletic competition, you want a cooler pool, and for adult aerobics, you want a warmer pool. And so at one point, we were looking at the option of building a second pool adjacent to it, so that we could have shared staff, some shared facilities, and that sort of thing. So those are options that I'd like us to explore. It's not just replacing the pool, it's having two pools, one hot, one cooler. And as my dad used to say, if you're going to do something, do it right. I'd be more inclined to go with number 3, have Scott find $200K somewhere out of our savings and go ahead and do it right. I don't think we've got the votes to do that. So I'll throw my weight behind option 2.
Councilor Bangs, you had your hand up?
Yes, thank you. I have 2 questions, and I just want to echo that same sentiment. Frankly, I think that Canby should have the best municipal pool. We've got the largest diving board and other pool equipment manufacturer in the world here in town, and it'd be nice to showcase that. So I have 2 questions here for Jennifer or whomever would be the best to answer. What does a new or modern pool facility cost? And secondly, if our population is 4 times what it was when we built the pool, and it's, I think, in excess, I think our population was 3,800 in 1970 when the pool was still relatively new. Would we need to have a much larger facility or multiple pools to match that same need that we were providing in the 70s?
What's Canby's population right now? Is it a 20? Where are you at?
18,000-ish, I think.
So as a comparison, Newburgh's pool and their population is 25,000. It's about 60,000 square feet. It has the competitive pool and the warm water recreation pool, and it also has the gym and fitness areas. So that's 60,000 square foot facility, and that cost $25 million 4 years ago.
Any other questions? Sarah, Councilor Spoon? You're muted.
I'm usually so good about that. Thank you, Council President Hensley. So Jennifer, let's say we decided we wanted to make our facility better than 2B. If we look at the other option, which is 3A, those 2 restrooms next to the office area, are those both? So there's 2 restrooms and then what appears to be like a separate shower. Is that what I'm looking at on 3A?
Yeah, so this one, is the shower is in the room. So it is another could be another gender neutral changing room. The shower is in this room. Is that what you mean?
Okay. And then, so is that a closet then?
That's just a closet. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just a closet.
Okay. And would those then would one of those be at least for public? Obviously, he said during meets, they need one for officials. Like, what would the intention for those restrooms be if we went that direction?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it would be as needed.
Okay.
So if we needed both of them to be used for general neutral, then we would do that. So that's the idea. You just use them as needed.
Okay. And then with like the family restroom, how the gender specific restrooms have the regular shower area and then deck showers. The intention is that with the family or gender inclusive restroom, that shower would serve both as kind of the deck shower, the rinse shower, and the shower.
It's just used, it would be used for the people that are using that room.
Yeah. Okay.
Councilor Parker.
Councillor Bangs reminded me of something that needs to be pointed out. S.R. Smith has done a tremendous job with donations to the pool over the years. Eric can probably give us some details on that, but it's not just a prospective thing, Chris. They have been very generous. And also, it is kind of neat to be able to test drive some of their new products. So it would be advantageous for us to consider moving ahead in a partnership. And also, I want to give some credit to Eric. Been on the council now 11 years. And this my dad used to say also, the lack of things going wrong takes a ton of work. And the swim center is just something we haven't had to worry about. You know, we haven't had controversy, we haven't had crisis, we haven't had problems. Eric, you and your staff have done a great job running it. So you don't want to just pay attention to places when they have a problem. You should be recognized for running a tight show.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Seeing none. Scott, what do you need from us?
Well, I think, I guess I would parse it up into maybe at least a couple of different questions, or perhaps more. One is there interest in proceeding with the renovation? And I'm gathering that there is at least seems to be a consensus that we would move forward with a renovation, with the understanding that we certainly need to address the longer term situation with the land and the school district lease and all of that. So maybe I can get some head nods or no's on that.
Yeah, the land issue, that's been a perennial conversation, so we would like to see that continue. And but looking at the screen here, it looks like we have consensus to move forward with one of the plans. I'm sensing that everyone's kind of gravitating towards 2B. Am I right in that? Head nods, waves, something. Got a thumbs up. Okay, so yeah.
I could go with 2B or 3A if staff felt like the better option was feasible. If we have if they felt like they could get the funds, I would be open to that conversation. But I'd also want that to be what staff wants. As long as staff is recommending 2B, I tend to head that way. But if they're only recommending 2B because we can fund it with our current money, then but they would actually prefer 3A, I would be open to a conversation about how we get to 3. Yeah, is where I'm at.
Scott, Eric, do you have something to offer on that?
Eric, why don't you give your opinion on that?
Obviously, 3B, I mean, the 3 would be a preferential remodel because it has a lot more features in it and it addresses the dressing rooms a little better. But yes, we did decide on the 2B because we have the money right now that we could use for that. If we could find funds that were available to reach to the next one, then we could do that. But we'd have to have that conversation with the staff.
So just to tag on to that, I think what I'm hearing, council, is and this is what we're saying as well, is 2B is our baseline, and it does get us to, I think, a reasonably good place. And if we were able to afford the other option, was it 3A? Excuse me. We'll take a look at that. We'll kind of have some conversations on what that looks like. We would have to probably at least dip a little bit further into our reserves at the pool. But again, I guess one thing that we could look at is with our earlier discussion about the levy, if that goes forward and if that were to be supported by the voters again, then we do have the ability to essentially, I think, backfill that dip in reserves over some time. But I'll want to work with Julie Blums, our finance director, and talk to Eric a little bit more, and then we could probably converse with Jennifer about kind of solidifying what that cost looks like. So perhaps council, what I maybe suggest we do here is this has been excellent discussion, and we've got, I think, a good sense of direction. Is I'll have those conversations within our staff team, and then probably want to come back maybe and just do at least a brief update work session with you to touch base before we move forward on this. But this really has been a very helpful conversation. It's gotten us to a good point. Does that sound good to council?
Sounds good to me. I'm seeing head nods. I also see a couple more questions. Councilor Parker.
I want to make sure, Scott, that you're splitting the question. We're in agreement to bring back a resolution to place the swim levy on the ballot. I think the sooner that the city indicates that it's going to be having it on the ballot, I think we are being a good partner to other taxing districts in the area by letting them know that this is going to be appearing on the November ballot. So while part of it remains up in the air on financing of 3A, I would like to think that we do have consensus on the other issue, which is bring us a resolution as soon as possible to place a renewal of the swim levy on the November ballot.
Yes, thank you for that, Councilor Parker, and that's the direction that I was taking earlier, and very much appreciate the clarification. But yeah, we're parsing this into two pieces, and we're going to bring you a resolution on the levy very soon. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Councilor Spoon?
Yeah, and just to clarify, it sounds to me like we can have this conversation, but what the next step, I think, for us beyond just consensus that yes, we're open to renovation is to make a decision which direction we're going to go, I would need some budgeting information. It sounds like that's where you're headed. It sounds like you could come back to us with budgets and what gaps we need to fill and everything in order to determine between 2B and 3A, or I think that's what they were called. That's the question mark for me, is the budgeting, which was not part of this conversation, but that I'm definitely would like to proceed with a renovation. But I would, in order to determine which one I would be interested in supporting, I'd need to see some additional budgeting information. Does that sound like where we're at? Okay.
Great. And we understand that. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Scott?
No, I think that's it. Unless, Jennifer, you didn't have anything else to add, did you?
I guess I will just clarify that those costs that you have, those are construction only costs. So we call those hard costs in our industry. And there are things called soft costs that are associated with this project that will be associated with it. So that'll be permitting fees, design fees, things like that. So there will be that. And we can definitely work with you, Eric and Scott, to help solidify any budgeting around a kind of final number if you want that.
Great. Well, thank you, Jennifer, for clarifying that. So again, council, just to confirm what we're hearing is we're going to bring back a resolution on the levy as soon as it's possible, and then we'll refine this discussion about the renovation options, and we'll bring back some updated information and allow for some further consideration.
Okay. Well, then I will take a motion to adjourn our work session, and we'll take a break until our 7:15 executive session.
Move to adjourn the work session.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilor Varwig, seconded by Councilor Spoon. It's a non-debatable motion. All those in favor? All right, we'll see you at 7:15.